Hi there, John here. In this video I'm just wanting to explore something that I'm hoping will be very interesting, at least to both therapists and also to clients who are in therapy. And the question that I'm raising in this video is, how do successful clients use therapy as compared to unsuccessful clients? Now, this is a question that therapists dread, because as therapists we like to boast about perhaps our successes, how clients felt better, have made constructive changes to their lives. But it becomes rather tricky when we start to think about how some clients do come into therapy and don't seem to benefit. And this was a question that was raised back in the 1950s. Research and evidence-based therapy is not something that is new. It goes all the way back to Carl Rogers and to his taping of therapy sessions. Now, two of Carl Rogers' colleagues, Kirtner and Cartwright, investigated this question. Why do some people succeed with therapy when other clients don't? And again, success was very simply defined. Over the course of the therapy, do clients feel better about themselves? Do they begin to make constructive changes to their lives? Now, the results of the research were incredibly controversial and called uproar in the counselling centre where Carl Rogers operated in the University of Chicago. What Kirtner and Cartwright discovered was that successful clients, and indeed unsuccessful clients, could be spotted within the first couple of sessions, and that successful clients had a particular way of working through and dealing with their emotional issues as compared to unsuccessful clients. And that's a real, as I say, that was very, very controversial. It caused ructions and arguments. What were their discoveries? What were successful clients doing as compared to unsuccessful ones? I think it's worth perhaps mentioning what the unsuccessful clients were doing. Some of the unsuccessful clients were very cognitive indeed. They could pinpoint with precision exactly the thinking and the analysis and the history of their particular emotional disturbance. But nothing ever changed or shifted. They could say, yes, I can well understand that when my mother deserted me at the age of 3, that would have been a very traumatic experience for me. But even pinpointing that and knowing the story wouldn't help. Other unsuccessful clients talked about very traumatic incidents in exactly the same tone or way of speaking as very ordinary incidents. They may talk about, for example, going to the local store to buy some food, being beaten up and pulverised by a gang, perhaps somebody calling for an ambulance, but there's no emotional depth. The third thing that unsuccessful clients did was they were right in the middle of their emotions. Say this is the emotion, or this is me, this is the feelings that I have, and the feelings would be overwhelming. People would feel incredibly overwhelmed by the anger, the hurt, the depression. They could feel them again and again and again, but they never shifted. Now, successful clients would on occasions do all of those things, but there was something very special about the way successful clients operated and dealt with and processed what they were feeling. Successful clients may start off, I'll give you a little demonstration. They might say, well, no, I was really angry. And there you can see that they're right in the middle of the anger. But then they'd slow the talking down. They'd say, well, I was angry, but was angry the right feeling? And they'd sense into their bodies whether the thinking, the conceptualization, if you like, yes, I was angry, fits the experience. Now notice that they weren't trying to fit the experience with new ways of thinking. They weren't trying to tell themselves that they weren't really angry. They were testing out the words against the felt sense of what actually happened for them. And as they tested, they go, yeah, there was anger there, but there was something else, and they'd sense in something on the fringes of that anger. And they'd say, yeah, well, there was more. There was like, actually when that happened, I felt, yeah, betrayed. That's the right word. And again, they'd be in relationship with that sense of betrayal. They wouldn't be in the middle of it, but they'd be like touching the fringes of it, and they'd be testing out the word betrayed to see whether that was the right word for the experience, or whether there was something in that experience that was perhaps more than betrayed. And then they might shift again, and they go, well, I was angry and betrayed, but yeah. Oh, that's it. At that point, I just felt so alone. Now, you might think, for example, that this is actually making things worse, but in reality, as they tested the language against the felt sense of what it was all about, and as they got the right language, or language that sort of fitted the experience, so the experience would change. So the experience went from anger to being alone to being betrayed, or was it the other way around? And frequently the problem or the issue would change. It would feel differently in the body. There would be like a shift, a felt shift of the issue. And frequently, though not in every single case of every therapy session, there'd be a release of tension in the body. The body would feel differently about it. And as people felt different, so the thinking or the language changed, and as they felt different, their behaviour would begin to change. So the thinking, the feelings and the behaviour all began to shift, but the initial part of that shifting was a sense that things felt different. And as things felt different, so people began to make constructive changes to their lives. Now, Kirtner and Cartwright did the initial research, and Gendlin did more research and discovered that you could teach unsuccessful clients to work through and process their issues in the same way or similar ways to successful clients. And therefore this became a very important tool. And he called the process, the steps that people could take, focusing. It's not the best word in the world for it, but it's what he came up with. And there were two things that arose from that. One was to teach therapists how to facilitate and help clients to process their issues in this particular way. And the second thing came focusing courses outside of therapy. You can actually learn this as a technique completely outside of therapy. So in future videos I'll be exploring both focusing and focusing oriented therapy. This video is not a substitute for getting expert professional help if you're experiencing emotional or psychological problems. But do look into our other videos. Many thanks for listening and looking.